Good people YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and if you told me anytime before October 30th that Tudor would release a Pelagos GMT, a watch that I've been waiting for years, and that my first gut reaction to the watch would be, ugh, I would have just asked you which universe or timeline you're from, because me just not liking a Pelagos GMT is pure insanity. And yet here I am in my own timeline, I think, and it was my first reaction to seeing the new Tudor Pelagos FXD GMT Aeronautique Navale, which I'll shorten to FXD GMT going forward. And while I don't think it's any more, now that I've had a little bit more time to think about it and process the release, I'm still not a fan. So in this video, I'm gonna go over the details of this new FXD GMT, and now that I've had some time to think about the watch and what it's all about, I'll get into why it is that I, someone who absolutely loves his own Pelagos, titanium watches, and GMT watches in general, just can't get around to liking the FXD, let alone liking it enough to actually get one. I mean, I'm legitimately so irritated that I don't like it because I really want to love it. And I even mocked up a version that I think should have been the original design that I'll show later on in the video. This here watch might have something to do with my feelings here. But anyway, let's get into it. So before my thoughts, let's get the details of the watch out of the way. This is a 42mm wide, 12.7mm thick Flyer GMT, making this a Pelagos pilot's watch, which to me just sounds bizarre, bordering on stupid, but again, more on my feelings in the next section. The movement in this watch is the MT5652-U, which is a METAS and cost certified Flyer GMT movement. For me, the overall METAS certification is the more important of the two certifications because it tests the watch's anti-magnetic properties to 15,000 Gauss, which is way more than the vast majority of human beings would come across in a normal situation. And the other big, maybe the biggest aesthetic change is the 24-hour bezel, which is a first for the Pelagos line, and it's in a sandy beige color lume, which I wouldn't necessarily call Fotina in this case because I don't think that that's what they were going for with this watch. That said, for tool watches, I still think you might as well go for full stark white for ultimate contrast and legibility, but I digress. And the next big update is, of course, the GMT hand, which is a very simple GMT hand in orange and with an arrow for the lume instead of a snowflake, which I'm assuming is for legibility, but I personally would have liked a snowflake. I know some of you will vehemently disagree with that. But the really cool thing here is that the hour and minute hands and the hour markers on the dial have blue lume, and the GMT functions, the GMT hand and the 24-hour bezel, are all green lume. So that means that there is a visual differentiation between the functions, but also a visual connection between the connected functions. Very thoughtful. I just hope that they are equally bright and they last the same amount of time. Otherwise, that would be quite irritating to see that difference. Overall, though, the big news here is that this is the Pelagos line's first ever GMT, which is very cool, no doubt about that. But it also bothers me quite a bit because the original 42mm Pelagos, aka the one that started it all for the Pelagos, has been pretty much entirely ignored for nearly a decade, since 2015 when they updated the movement to the in-house one with 70 hours of power reserve. The one I have. So at this point, there better be something very special coming out for the 10-year anniversary for the Pelagos. So before I get into why I don't love this new FXD GMT, a bit of background. My second big boy watch purchase after my Speedy was the Pelagos 42, which I've now had for 7 years. I got it in 2017, and I've loved it ever since. It's such an intense tool diver, it's titanium, which I love, and to this day, it has the best on-the-fly clasp adjustment, and the bezel is fantastic. All the design elements made the Pelagos a Pelagos, and since I have the 42mm Pelagos, in my mind, the ideal GMT would be in the 39mm version, so I wouldn't have any watches stepping on each other's toes. And by the way, I'm not a Pelagos purist. I think the FXD is awesome enough to actually, buy one over here, albeit at a steal of a price, this one. Video on this will come out soon. But I also think that the Red Bull FXDs are pretty awesome. I just don't like the blue dial with the carbon case. It just looks unusual to me. And the Pelagos 39 isn't my favorite watch, but it's still very much a valid Pelagos, I think. All that said, there are a few reasons why I'm not loving the FXD GMT. Each thing on its own would have been okay-ish, but all of them together in one watch is a lot for me to take in, and perhaps a bit too much for me to take in. The first thing is the cream lume all around. It just doesn't look great to me, especially in the press photos. It looks awful, but I'm guessing that it's going to be a lot more similar to the Pelagos LHD, which isn't as saturated, so it's definitely better, but still, I'm not really a huge fan of the lume on the LHD, and I'm guessing I'm not going to be a fan of this either for that matter. And then the fact that the GMT hand is orange is bothering me because the squad patch on the strap, which is very cool, is clearly red. So why is the GMT hand orange when it could have been just matched with the patch, because this is the Aeronautique Navale? I mean, it's just, it's a little thing, but it just bothers me so much. So because it irritated me so much, I quickly mocked up a version with white lume and a red GMT hand, because maybe it was the color choices that were my main issue. And my God, these changes makes this watch miles better. It still has its issues. I mean, it's just so much more tool watchy, but it's still hard for me to see a GMT bezel on a watch as pure as the Pelagos. And that brings me to my next point. I just can't get over the bezel. And there's nothing inherently wrong with the bezel, by the way, but I just find the GMT bezel, just the look of a GMT bezel on the FXD just does not look right to me at all. And yeah, and the reason why it bothers me so much is because the Pelagos to me is a pure tool diving watch. I've always wanted the eminent Pelagos GMT to be a diver GMT, not a GMT watch that can go deep. Examples of a diver GMT are my Seiko SPB 383, amazing watch, and the Longines Hydro Conquest GMT. They are dive watches first with timing bezels, and the GMT complication is there in the background when you need it. And this also means that you get a full set of bezel clicks instead of just 48. So the fact that I'm now seeing the FXD, arguably the most tool watch Pelagos, given that it was designed with and for the Marine Nationale, for navigating in water, just randomly as a pilot's watch with a GMT bezel, just feels absolutely bizarre to me. And before anyone says, oh, it's a pilot's watch, so it has to have a GMT bezel, yes, I get it. I get it that Zulu time is needed, but the dial is just so brutally tool watch. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll do its job just great, you know, for a pilot's watch, but the mishmash of all these design elements just feels so weird to me. And also, I know that there are other GMT watches that were essentially made from dive watches, like the SSK GMT, the Oris Aquas GMT, the frickin' GMT Master 2 in the end, I mean, which in terms of looks is basically a Submariner with a GMT bezel and a GMT hand. I mean, I don't know why, they just look better. Maybe it's just because, I mean, no, the SK GMT, yeah, I don't know why, they just do. So in the end, the fact that the FXD now has a GMT bezel, the whole thing has cream lume, and then we're throwing in a GMT hand, and we've got a squad patch on the strap itself, and the accent colors don't match it, leading to a lot of colors here, makes this watch just so unappealing. And I can't believe that they've managed to do this to the Pelagos, which is a relatively simple watch, all things considered, and a pretty handsome watch at that. I mean, now it's not as bad as I originally thought. Now I've seen some more live photos, but man, I mean, my hottest take of this watch and was that it looks like an AliExpress special. I mean, not so much right now, but yeah, that whiff of AliExpress is still very much there for me. So there you have it. Let me know what you think about the FXD GMT down in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. And yeah, until the next video, good day.